by changing some of its own religious practices.
My Lords, we live in a period in which Jewish schools have had to ramp up security to protect their pupils, and religious symbols of Judaism are being hidden by students in fear in non-Jewish schools. So my question is that actually religion and politics has got very messy, and who'd be an RE teacher in dealing with such fraught difficulties? Indeed, the front pages over the last few days is of the story of Michaela, a community school led by Catherine Birbal-Singh, who I admire but others don't, but it's certainly controversial. But of all things, the school is in court by a pupil for banning Muslim prayers. And the head teacher had basically said we shouldn't be divided by religion, we should have no prayers. But one of the things that fascinated me was that one of the things the teacher said was that some pupils were being intimidated by their peers for not being religiously pious enough. And it was a kind of bullying. So I'm making this point that there's a kind of poisonous atmosphere out there. Even the question, do we live in a Christian country, is rather more awkward than you'd think. I mean, I loved Lord Harris's explanation of religion as education, as knowledge, and that's the part that I totally agree with him on. But many British institutions seem really embarrassed by the Western Judeo-Christian tradition. Its accomplishments are more likely to be labelled as white privilege than as the repositories of positive values or virtues. And instead, in recent years, the new religion is diversity and inclusion, and that has incentivised faith groups, I think, to adopt politicised cultural religious identities, and that's proved a recipe for stirring up divisive tensions and encouraged group grievance mongering and offence taking. And I don't think we should forget that one school teacher from Batchley Grammar School is still in hiding for fear of his life for the blasphemy of showing pupils an image of Muhammad in a religious studies class. And he had no support from politicians or trade unions, was labelled Islamophobic, told he was making a fuss about nothing except that Paris teacher Samuel Paty was decapitated for a similar offence of showing cartoons of Muhammad. We've got to admit this is difficult. And also, if I could just finish with Reverend Bernard Randall, who lost his job at a Christian school, Trent College in Derbyshire, because he delivered a sermon expressing approval for mainstream Christian teaching on marriage, on biological sex and on gender, and the head teachers reported him to prevent. That bodes badly for any RE teachers. I'd avoid it like the plague. I just mean we have to be honest that it's more difficult than it sounds, than just by paying bursaries.
My Lords, I do want to thank Lord Harris for tabling this question for short